Welcome to UPLEVEL, Real Health, Real Talk with Dr. Jenna Blasi. I'm Dr. Jenna. I spent years crafting ways to help women thrive, and I want to help you do the same. On this podcast, we dive deep into health at every level, focusing on the mind, the body, and the spirit. This is where real conversations meet transformational wellness. We'll be talking about all the things that truly matter, from nutrition and fitness to lifestyle, mindset, and personal development. Plus, the real deal on managing stress and navigating menopause. So if you're ready to elevate your health journey with authentic, transformative insights, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to UPLEVEL. I am Dr. Jenna, and today we're going to talk about metabolism. One of the most common things that I hear from women in midlife is my metabolism is broken. So we're going to break down why do we feel like our metabolism is broken and what is actually happening, particularly in midlife. Women in midlife, they're doing what used to work. They're eating less or exercising more, and now nothing happens, or worse, they're continuing to gain weight and continuing to not feel well. But what if your metabolism isn't actually broken? I know I've even heard some people say, I feel like my body's betraying me. But what if your body is actually responding exactly the way it was designed to changing hormones, stress, sleep, and muscle mass? So March in general is our metabolism month. All right. So today we're going to do foundations. And my goal, honestly, is to remove blame and restore understanding. So we stop beating ourselves up and feeling like failures and actually just get an understanding of what is actually going on. So first off, why do so many women feel this way? Women notice, you may notice, weight gain despite effort, more stubborn belly fat, different hunger patterns, right? Different response to foods. Maybe could even be more bloating, more sensitivity, or just not feeling satisfied. Slower recovery, fatigue, more cravings, feeling out of control. That's one of the things that I've talked about in the last few months. So your body changing doesn't mean your body is failing. And when we look at the mindset work that I love to do, this is an important component, because if we're constantly berating ourselves and our bodies, you've betrayed me, why aren't you responding? It's subtle, but it does actually have an effect. Okay, different topic. You can listen to my other episodes on the self-talk, but when we feel like our bodies are failing, it's not a great energy and mental attitude to bring to it. And the fact is that what we're going to break down today is your body's changing 100%, but it's actually responding in a way that's trying to offset these changes. All right. So we have been taught, I think there's a bit of like a cultural misunderstanding or attitude around this. All right. We have been taught metabolism is speed, go, go, go. And that appetite suppression equals success. And that weight gain equals lack of discipline. This is why there's so much like fat shaming in this culture, right? Like it's your fault. Obesity is a disease like other diseases. And when we get into GLP-1s later on this month, looking at this idea that we have of like, you just didn't work hard enough. You didn't get off, you're lazy, which is often not the case, right? Most of the time, not the case. Folks have tried. They've tried all the things. There's genetic pieces, there's hormone imbalance pieces, et cetera. And so, when we take meds for other conditions, there's a lot less stigma attached to this idea. I've heard so many people like with GLP-1 say like, you're cheating. This person's cheating if they do that. So weight gain equals lack of discipline, and aging. This is another sort of cultural. I'm just going to even say this is like not just a misunderstanding, but a myth to some extent. Aging equals decline. It doesn't have to. Doesn't have to. I tell the story often of hiking in Boulder when I was in college, and I'd be hiking up the mountain at 10 in the morning because I liked my mornings, and there would be 90-year-olds on their way down. All right. So aging doesn't have to equal decline. So in reality, your metabolism is a regulation system. And your body will prioritize survival and stability, not aesthetics. We want it to prioritize aesthetics, right? But it's prioritizing survival and stability. So what metabolism actually is it includes a lot of aspects. It's energy production, it's blood sugar regulation, it's hormone signaling, it's your nervous system state, it's thyroid signaling, muscle mass, mitochondrial function, gut signals, and brain appetite regulation. All right. It includes all those things, but it is not just how fast you burn calories. It's how well your body manages energy as a whole. And those things that I just listed are part of energy regulation, and they go into this whole picture. So when we look at what's really changing in midlife, we have hormone shifts. Estrogen changes and influences your insulin sensitivity, your fat distribution, your appetite signaling, your muscle maintenance, the amount of calories that you burn at rest. Estrogen affects all of those. And there's other hormones that affect these things that we're talking about, but estrogen decline is a huge one. And, you can listen to the podcast on MHT. I was just having a conversation with a friend the other night about fear around hormone therapy and breast cancer. But there's so many other risks that go up as our estrogen declines, and the risk with cancer and estrogen, I break it down in that other episode, but it's really, really minimal. It's really, really minimal. Some say there's no risk. There's some evidence for a certain length of time. There's no risk. And again, I'm not going to go into details on that now, but alcohol increases your risk more than hormone therapy. Lack of exercise increases your risk more than hormone therapy, or on the flip side, decreases your risk substantially. All right. So, and remember, in the Women's Health Initiative, the estrogen only arm of that study had lower breast cancer risk. All right. So we keep wanting to blame estrogen for all these things. And there's xenoestrogens from the environment, which are like estrogens on steroids, like they're fake estrogens that are competing at the receptor site. So there's other issues that are not about blaming estrogen for everything. But in this case, we're going to talk about not blaming, but looking at when your estrogen goes down too low, you become more insulin resistant. The body starts storing fat in the belly instead of, before menopause, more the hips, the thighs, and the glutes. Your appetite signaling is disrupted. That's what I've been sharing. That's been happening with me for a while now, is just feeling that out of control. Like I'm hungry, and the things that were easy for me to ignore before are louder now. And then muscle maintenance. So the result of these hormone changes, this estrogen decline, is the body may very likely become more energy conservative. What do we do when we're conservative? We're holding on to things, right? If I'm conservative about how I'm spending my money, I'm holding on to it. All right. I don't know if that analogy works across the board, but for our energy, this shows up as decreased resting energy expenditure, right? So you're not burning as much at rest, decreased spontaneous movement, NEAT, N-E-A-T. And so this is one that people don't realize, like how much extra energy you're burning from like non-exercise, right? Non-exercise activity. This goes down. Your thyroid output and your T3 conversion gets affected. And then those hunger signals, like I was talking about, right? Your ghrelin, I can never pronounce that word for some reason. Ghrelin, y'all know what I'm talking about. And leptin, right? I always say ghrelin, but I don't know that that's correct. So apologies for whatever reason. I think gremlin and I say ghrelin, but I'm not sure that's how you actually pronounce it. But your ghrelin versus your leptin, increase hunger signals, decrease satiety, right? Your hunger signals go up. That's should I just say it both ways? Ghrelin. And you have decreased satiety. Leptin sensitivity is changing. And then increased drive to store incoming energy. So this is why long-term dieting triggers, right? If you are a long-term dieter, yo-yo, up and down, you're triggering metabolic adaptation. All right. So the body is conserving energy more aggressively, which is slowing your metabolic processes, and you become more efficient at storing fuel, and not in the good way. Okay. So meaning your body learns to run on less, but hold on to more. All right. So think of it as like your body switches into low battery mode. It's dimming all those non-essential processes and holding on to every bit of fuel it can. And not to mention that fat releases estrogen, and not the healthy estrogen, by the way. Fat primarily releases estrone, which is your inflammatory estrogen. When we do hormone therapy, we're looking at estradiol, but estrone, which is pro-inflammation. So your body is creating more fat to try to offset the estrogen. So it's really it's being smart. We don't like it. We want to offset it. So when we start storing, and our estrogen is dropping and these hormone shifts are happening, muscle becomes harder to maintain. All right. The average muscle loss after 30, now this varies widely, right? Based on your exercise and your fitness and how long you've been strength training and all those pieces. But the average muscle loss is 3 to 8% per decade after age 30. And muscle is so important. That's why we talk about strength training. That's why we talk about protein consumption, because muscle helps burn energy at rest. So your metabolism is actually higher, right? I feel like in the 80s and maybe to some extent now it's like, let's do cardio, burn calories. But muscle burns calories at rest. All right. And it helps regulate glucose. It supports metabolic flexibility. And basically muscle is your metabolic engine. We want muscle. Too many people are losing weight, and much of that is muscle, which is why if you're on a GLP-1, not going to get into that today, or on some kind of a plan where you're releasing weight, and I say releasing because if we lose it, we'll just go find it again. Y'all have heard me say this. But if we're releasing weight in a healthy way, we're preserving our muscle at the same time and learning how to even try to build muscle. But we become more anabolically resistant in this stage of life. And so this decline has impacts, and that is why it's so important to preserve our muscle and to make sure that you're not losing muscle. Even if you just get an in-home body scanner, like if there's a gym or a body composition DEXA place where you live, yes, get that done regularly, or someone that a doctor's office that maybe checks your body composition. But if not, like we work virtually, so that's not an option for the people we work with. It's like, okay, get a body composition scale. Are they accurate? Nah, not really, not 100% anyway. And they have a variation of percentage of inaccuracies, if you will, but trends, looking at trends over time, we can make sure you're not losing too much muscle. And so this decline of your muscle, as well as estrogen, fewer calories burned at rest, less glucose disposal, right? We start heading into the realm of insulin resistance, pre-diabetic, etc. So often what women think is a quote unquote slow metabolism is actually reduced muscle. And so we really want to focus, because muscle does become harder to maintain. Doesn't mean we can't do it, and plays a key role in metabolic health. And so this whole idea of like wearing a weighted vest, I could probably do a whole separate podcast on this, but I just want to touch on it briefly. The evidence isn't strong for it like helping you maintain muscle if you're just throwing a vest on as a substitute for strength training. All right. If you want to add a vest so that you're adding resistance to strength training you're already doing, then, we see some modest benefits. But I just wanted to speak to that briefly. It's not like the panacea of, I don't even think it's not the cure all, oh, yay, my bones are going to be so strong and I'm going to maintain muscle. Just because you're wearing a weighted vest, it still has to be part of a comprehensive wellness, strength, fitness program. But remember, takeaway, muscle is protective metabolic tissue. All right. Protective. We're not going for skinny. All right. Skinny's out. Strong is in. Okay. It's protective metabolic tissue. So going back to this idea of you have a long history of dieting and you've now had metabolic adaptation to that dieting. The body responds to long-term restriction. This is where it's like a danger zone, slippery slope in menopause, or like especially menopause, but I would say in many ways at any stage of life where you're not getting the results you want, so you start restricting more and more. This is why diets don't work, right? And why it's yo-yo, restrict and strict, and then it's not working anymore. And then we yo-yo the other direction. So the body looks at long-term restriction as a threat. And so it makes adaptations such as lowering energy expenditure, right? How much you're burning, increased hunger, all the things I already talked about, decreased satiety. It becomes efficient at, storing energy, and it's messing with your thyroid signaling, which is, we think of thyroid in terms of metabolism. So your body isn't fighting you. Your body isn't betraying you. It's actually protecting you, right? So show your body some love. It's waiting for you to show up and show it some love. But when we understand this at a root cause, okay, my body's just trying to survive, then we can address it from a root cause. Chronic stress. All right, let's talk about chronic stress, because we have restriction, which is a form of stress on your body. We have restriction. Chronic stress can impair your insulin signaling. And so now we're shifting fat storage potentially toward the abdomen. All right. This is why fat storage can increase when the body senses instability or scarcity. It's a protective mechanism. So chronic stress contributes to this picture of increasing energy conservation, heightening cravings, not because cortisol is bad. Cortisol has a purpose. Without cortisol, we are tired, right? But because the body's trying to stabilize. So if you have chronically elevated cortisol, then we're messing with our blood sugar, our insulin signaling, body fat storage is going to shift. The body is in that fight or flight threat mode. And so managing stress is super important. And I have at least 2 other podcasts on stress management. But just remember, let's give our body some grace and look at, okay, what is my body doing? Why is it doing it? And how do I actually address the cause? Another cause is sleep disruption. Now, this is all a vicious cycle as well, because when our estrogen drops and our progesterone, our sleep gets disrupted. So especially in midlife, we have sleep disruption from the changing hormones. If you have chronic stress, that will disrupt your sleep. When our hormones like estrogen and progesterone decrease, we start responding to stress less efficiently, right? We're less stress resilient. I think I talked about this in the last episode, maybe. And then when we look at the effect of sleep, reduced insulin sensitivity, like if you're getting less sleep, then you're reducing your insulin sensitivity. Remember, we want to be sensitive to insulin. We're getting increased hunger hormones, which is why in the sleep podcast, I discussed that we make less healthy choices when we don't sleep as well, because our hunger hormones are out of whack. We have reduced satiety, we have poorer recovery, and we have more fat storage tendency. And midlife is a huge driver of this. And so like muscle, sleep is a metabolic regulator. It's not just about rest. It is not a luxury. It is not, hey, but I feel fine off of 5 or 6 hours. It's a metabolic regulator that is important. So bringing this all together, this is why eating less and exercising more stops working. This is why this is such outdated advice that is really a disservice to you. When you go to your practitioner and you've been struggling with your weight and they're like, well, you just need to eat less and exercise more, it's not that straightforward. There is a lot of levers, a lot of aspects to this. Now, yes, calories in, calories out do matter. Ultimately, at the end of the day, to release weight, you have to be burning more than you are consuming. And if you're consuming more calories than you're burning, you will gain weight and or not lose weight, depending on how far off the ratio you are. But the equation is not just calories in, calories out. So over time, just restricting leads to stronger adaptation. And so I just want to pause here for a moment. And when we go through midlife changes, whether it's perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, and this can even be true for you cycling females out there, our stress response changes, our nervous system is triggered in different ways, our sleep, all these things are affected. And so I told you all the story of I was doing a fitness program, and that fitness program, I was trying to do it all in and experience it. And we were supposed to be in a calorie deficit, and my body this is when a lot of the out of control started, is it just really went into it would be fine for a few days, and then it just rebelled. It would just rebel. And so when I look back on that, and even just what like this last year has been and the things that have been going on in my life and my business and my work, it was too much of a threat. The calorie deficit was putting my body into like nervous system threat mode. So whatever we do is addressing safety in the body ultimately. All right. So just wanted to say like, so at that time of my life, would eating less and moving more, because it was like the really amazing fitness programs. Shout out to Haley Happens Fitness. But I had too many other things going on with my hormones. I wasn't on hormone replacement or hormone therapy yet, and I needed more support. My nervous system was rejecting that. And so my body might have responded. Like if I ate less, I would release weight, which wasn't my goal, but more restriction ultimately leads to stronger adaptation. And my body was adapting in the sense of like it was reaching for safety very, very quickly. And so more restriction, stronger adaptation, not in a healthy way, like not in the way that you're wanting. More exercise without recovery, added stress load. So women that are just, let me move more. You're just adding exercise without recovery. This adds to the stress load. All right. And then you're just restricting more and more, adding to the energy conservation picture. You're not going to get the results that you want. And then less fuel. This is what I was just speaking to. Less fuel, stronger appetite signals, more cravings. I started having more, like I'm not a craving person. Like I've had cravings in control for most of my adult life. All right, through a variety of different things, but it's become like a non-issue for me until my hormones really reached a low level and my nervous system was not getting quite the recovery that it needed. And so what I'm saying here is hunger often increases when the body perceives energy scarcity. Just like with your finances, if suddenly they're feeling scarce, you're gonna see this as a threat and kind of hold on. And so a way that your body holds on is by increasing hunger so that you eat more. So it's getting more fuel. So less fuel is going to backfire for many into stronger appetite signals, more cravings. Now, short term, it may work, right? Short term, it may work. That was my initial when I was in that deficit, I was getting results, but it backfired the other direction for me. So long term, the body often compensates, or worse, it rebounds. All right. So we have to stop doing this cycle. We have to break this cycle, eat less, move more. Don't let people shame you. Let's just address all of these pieces, your stress, your hormones, your sleep, etc. Because what worked at 30 may very likely stop working at 50. Not because your body is defective, not because your body has failed, not because you're doomed to be in a body for the rest of your life that you don't recognize and you don't feel good in, but because it has changed. It's changed. And the hard truth is the body tends to defend against weight loss more than weight gain. So let's reframe this whole thing. So not only can we have a mindset shift, we can let go of white knuckling this experience, and we can also start to actually get some results. Metabolism is a feedback system. It's a feedback system. So instead of control and punishment, which so many of you are way too skilled at, it's a deep pattern: control, punishment, blame yourself, feel like a failure, be hard on yourself, and move towards understanding, consistency, and support. And support takes a lot of different forms. It starts with you. You know, I'm big into mentorship. I believe we should all be working with fantastic world-class mentors to guide us on the various journeys, whether it's fitness, nutrition, mindset, all of the above, whatever it is, health, of course. But it starts with you, and where in your life can you add support, and even within yourself, where can you support yourself more? And that understanding, consistency. I did an episode on consistency and what that can look like when it's not control and punishment, but when it's actual identity. All right. So if you're getting signals, this may reflect that you're underfueling. All right. Low energy availability or underfueling is a real thing. And a lot of women are in that place, and you're tired and you have brain fog, and it's actually from underfueling, or your workouts, you're not recovering the same because you've underfueled. It may reflect sleep debt, And for those of you that have an Aura ring, I do not like when my Aura ring shows me that I'm in sleep debt. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to prioritize sleep. None of us we don't want to be in debt in any form, many people. So I want to focus on abundance and getting enough sleep and feeling good. Stress load, right? Might reflect that you're under stress. It could reflect muscle changes, like I talked about earlier in the episode, hormone shifts, and just adaptive responses. All right. Your body's communicating. It's communicating. It's not malfunctioning. Getting angry with it and frustrated doesn't help us get better. Focusing on the problem is not the answer. Focusing on the solution in anywhere in life. And so understanding, when we come from understanding, then we can be solution focused, not problem focused. So some of the symptoms, I feel really strongly about this. Some of the symptoms that are attributed to aging are influenced by stress and metabolic adaptation. And some of the symptoms that are attributed to midlife and you're just going to feel like this and this is how it's going to be, are actually all of these things that have been building in our systems. We've been putting everybody else first. We've been prioritizing caregiving of parents, of kids. We've been not managing stress. We've been on sleep debt for years. And then it just catches up with us in midlife. So it's not like in midlife, your body just breaks down. I don't believe that. I do believe the symptoms are real. I'm not saying the hormone changes aren't real. They absolutely are. I spent the first part of this podcast talking about that. But the shit we got away with, that might be the first time I've sworn on this podcast. Anyway, that we've gotten away with, I try to keep it G in case your kids are listening, that we've gotten away with for most of our lives catches up to us in midlife. The body can't do it anymore. All right. So when we address it, and this is why we can't just slap, I don't believe we can't just slap hormones onto a dysfunctional system. If you just add hormones to a system that's overstressed, nervous system dysregulation, go, no boundaries, toxic soup of just poor eating and chemical, if you've got toxicity in your system, because we're all exposed to toxins every day, and these are endocrine disruptors. If we just put hormones on top of that, we may not get the benefits that we're hoping for, or we might even get worse. When I hear a lot of people who say oh, I tried hormone therapy and I felt terrible, or it didn't work. So it didn't work, or, I felt worse. Sometimes the delivery system's wrong. Sometimes the dosage is wrong. And sometimes it's just, we got to address the underlying foundations of health. We've got to clear the system and make sure we're somewhat regulated before that support of external exogenous hormones, for example, can give us the results that we want. All right. I hope that makes sense. So we're going to go deeper this month. This whole month is going to be on metabolism in different aspects. But support can include maintaining your muscle, stabilizing your blood sugar, improving sleep, managing your stress load, consistent nourishment, and understanding appetite signals. Now, can hormone therapy help us with many of those things? Absolutely. Estrogen will help us, and testosterone help us maintain muscle. Yes. Help us stabilize blood sugar, help our liver function better, help us improve our sleep, help us manage stress. Because like I said, there's a stress resilience issue with our lower hormones. Will it help with consistent nourishment? Potentially, maybe that's a stretch through helping you with your appetite, but it's not the only piece. All right. We've got to strength train and have good sleep hygiene and be eating, having consistent nourishment and be eating, more healthy choices than not, and managing your stress in ways than just trying to sort of say, oh, well, I'm on hormone therapy, so I don't have to do stress management. We all need stress management. So you can see where all these things tie in together. And that's why I don't often think it's one thing. We always want to blame one thing. It's just my hormones. It's just this. It's just that. There's a lot of doctors that do that too. They're all about it's everything is genetics. Everything is, you need a colonic. Everything is whatever it is. I think we're multifaceted, nuanced, complex beings. And you all deserve personalized, nuanced healthcare. So find a provider that sees you as an individual, that knows the data, but understands what you're going through, and that is looking at you from all of these angles. But I also want this to be incredibly empowering for just what you can do right now in terms of addressing these things that I've talked about today. And so remember, like if you've just been in restriction mode and like not sleeping, sleep debt, like look at your bank account. If your body feels like these energy withdrawals are constant, just giving away, no boundaries, taking care of everybody else and not replenishing, it's going to start protecting its savings, which means it's going to start holding on to fat and holding on. And you're going to feel draggy and tired and sluggish. And so let's address the perceived threat, the instability, and work with our bodies. All right. Your body is not broken. It's responsive. It's adaptive, and it's actually intelligent. And when you understand it, you can work with it instead of fighting it. All right. And fighting doesn't usually end in good things, right? If we're in relationships, just fighting and arguing doesn't usually get us where we want to go. Understanding, working with someone to improve the relationship, that can bring really good results. So I think next time we're going to dive into hunger and, why hunger is not the enemy. But how do we handle it? So thank you all so much for joining me today. I think we went maybe a little bit longer, but this is such an important topic, and I hope you feel empowered. All right. The goal of this is not blame and shame or overwhelm or, oh my gosh, I got to do all these things or fix all these things. Like just as I always say, like pick one area. Like maybe you've dialed in a lot of these things and it is time to look into hormone therapy. Maybe you've already added hormone therapy or done some other things, but you haven't really addressed your sleep hygiene or your stress management. Like just pick one thing, muscle maintenance, whatever it is, and just build on that. And when that's going and that becomes more automatic and non-negotiable in your life, then you incorporate the next. So please share this. If you subscribe, if you leave us a review, that helps more people hear this information, which is intended to be impactful and empowering and give you tools in real time, in real life to start to thrive. Many of you are just surviving or maybe a little bit beyond that. Let's get you thriving. So thank you all, and I will see you next time. Bye. Thank you for joining me on this episode of UPLEVEL, Real Health, Real Talk. I hope today's conversation inspired you to take the next step in your health journey, one that nourishes not just your body, but your mind and spirit as well. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's episode, please leave a review. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep thriving. And remember, true wellness is a journey, and you are on the right path.